The Department of Higher Education and Training will later on this month host the World Skills South Africa competition. This is in preparation for the World Skills International Comp that'll be held in Russia. Now, the skills development competition is to raise awareness of apprenticeship, training, artisan development, and vocational education and training. According to the Department of Higher Education and Training, there are still stigmas and challenges that exist around artisan apprenticeship as well as vocational training and employment. Well, talking to us here in studio, we've got David Mabuzela. He is the Chief Director of Artisan Development of Higher Education and Training. Good to have you in studio. Thanks so much for joining us.
Morning, Leanne.
So, we talk about the stigma. Is it still there? We talk about it so often and we hope that we can get over that. But is it getting better, or people still not being attracted towards, artisan and skills-based training?
Well, the fact of the matter, Leanne, is that it is still there. And hence, as the Department of Higher Education and Training, we've got quite a number of programs, actually, that specifically seek to address that. The key campaign that is led largely by the Deputy Minister, Mr. Manamela, we call it the Decade of the Artisan. That program particularly, it's targeting actually reversing that stigma. Yeah. We travel across the country, propagating the benefits that are there with respect to choosing a career that is artisanship directed. Well, we're turning bit by bit, and we believe that by the time the program ends in 2024, we'll be able to have covered quite a lot of our young people to take that type of direction in their careers.
Look, I think one way of doing it is perhaps by entering into competitions like this and being a part of World Skills International. So talk to us about the background a little bit and how long has South Africa been involved in this particular competition?
Yes, quite true. It's quite an exciting unit, because World Skills South Africa has actually been a member of World Skills International. World Skills International is actually an international structure where you have about 80 countries that are participating there. Particularly, World Skills International is directed towards enhancing vocational education and training through competitions, one of the things. So as South Africa World Skills, we are affiliated in that structure. Now, for us to be able to go and compete there, we then need to prepare our participants here in the form of competitions. Those competitions, they start at local level, provincial level, involving TVET colleges, both private and public. Then winners there, they then go to national competitions, the ones which will be having in Durban on the 23rd to the 25th. Once we've completed those, then we'll be having a team now which will represent us in Kazan, Russia in August.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to get back to the stigma speak again, because I mean, a competition like this is great, and I love that there is a goal and an aspiration for the students and the artisans to participate towards. But we're looking and now focusing a lot on unemployment. And we are on a day where we're going to see COSATU attempt to shut down the country purely because of the unemployment rate. Do you believe that the stigma, the fact that people do not want to go and learn skills and become artisans and rather sort of bash university doors down to try and get a degree as opposed to going and getting a skill, do you think that's adding to the unemployment rate?
In a way, it is, because our various ministers have actually emphasized the fact that we need to actually shape our education structure quite correctly. It's actually due to that stigma. It's actually very bulgy at the top.
Yeah.
And we then need to reduce the influx into universities. Yeah, in terms, of course, of propagating artisanship. Now, we very, developments in the world are actually very fast, in the sense that they even will overtake us. Because as of now, we're speaking of fourth industrial revolution, which actually do not really eliminate the fundamental skills that are there. They simply support them in terms of, infusing the IT and communication technology aspect. But the fact of the matter, the young people who are there, they have a future with respect to choosing fields, study fields that are directing them towards artisanship. We conducted a survey in 2015 together with the Swiss South African Cooperation Initiative. And that survey with respect to unemployment produced studies which point to the fact that those that do artisanship, they actually stand at a chance of about 79% of getting employment.
Sure. Now, if we have to dig even deeper, which are the sectors that desperately need people to study towards? I mean, because sometimes it's a gaping hole in the system, and there are just no skilled or trained people to go into that. So, I mean, what are those sectors that you identify to say, guys, go and study here? You're almost guaranteed of a job because we desperately need people with those skills. What are they? What would you advise the youth to do?
It's actually, in fact, government has a lot of infrastructure projects. And those infrastructure projects, largely, they would demand skills that are focusing on the construction sector, on the manufacturing and engineering sector. And therefore, if you take, for example, construction sector, you will need people who are quite skilled as bricklayers, as carpenters, as plumbers. You can name all the fields that are there in the civil sector. You take electricians, which is quite a demand, welders, for an example, as well as boiler makers. And so those are the skills at the top that are on demand.
Yeah.
What we do as a department, usually, we produce a list of every year or two, we produce a list of scarce skills. Those skills are researched, and then they study the labor market, the labor demand side of the market. And they will indicate at that point in time which skills, including artisanal skills, are on demand. But by and large, Leanne, once one becomes an artisan, a whole range of artisans, are quite on demand.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. I think it's great that we're addressing this topic, and more importantly, the theme of the interview, basically, World Skills South Africa competition, where obviously the overall winners will then go and represent South Africa at the international competition, which will be taking place in Russia.
Yes.
So we wish those competitors, can they still enter, or is it sort of entries closed at this point?
No, unfortunately not. The next opening invitation will be preparing for the next competition, which will be in 2021.
Okay.
Yes, in China.
Okay.
So we'll be opening those in 2020 January, which
Fantastic.
will take other competitions, which will lead us then.
All
The
right.
competitions for this one actually started last year in January.
Okay, so
this is the culmination, the national.
Excellent. Well, please bring the winners in so we can meet them and celebrate them as well. Thanks so much for talking to us.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Leanne.
This is David Mabuzela. He's the Chief Director of Artisan Development of Higher Education and Training, talking to us about this World Skills South Africa competition. And it's going to be hosted this month. And then, of course, there's the global event, which is taking place in Russia. All right, let's take a